Welcome to the Real Turf Techs podcast for the technician that wants to get real. Follow along as we talk to industry professionals and address hot topics that we all face. Along the way, we'll learn tips and tricks. I'm your host, Trent Manning. Let's have some fun. Welcome to the Real Turf Techs podcast, episode 140. Today, we're talking to Jim Merritt, founder and CEO of JRM Incorporated. Jim started working at a golf course as a teenager, and that led to a successful career as a superintendent at several prominent golf courses in North Carolina. Frustrated with the quality of aerification tines in the early 1990s, Jim started making his own tines that could last and pull cores longer. Jim made tines for his deep tine aerification business before landing a contract with Redexim Holland. This contract helped Jim officially incorporate JRM, and the rest is history. Let's hear a little bit of that history today. Let's talk to Jim. And just a friendly reminder, Jim's two favorite heroes are Jesus and Tarzan. Tell me a little bit of your background and how you got started in the turf industry.
In 1967, I was 16, and my dad was born in 1919. 11 years old when the Great Depression hit. So he saw a lot and informed the person that he was. So he was conservative, no nonsense kind of guy, fought in World War II. And he told me, he said, son, get a job. I mean, manual labor. I laying around the house this summer.
Okay.
And so I went to work for Reynolds Park Golf Course, which is owned by the city of Winston-Salem. They own 2 golf courses. And I went to work on the maintenance department. And that's where I got started. And of course, I was just a kid. And it was a very enlightening experience. I worked there probably 8 summers in a row, all through college, all through high school, then postgraduate. When I on and got my turf degree, I was still working there during the summer. The superintendent and the foreman were the same, stayed there the whole time. They knew me from one season to the next. So I got to know those men very well. And I got to work with men that were in their 40s and 50s. And here I am, a kid. So I saw a lot, learned a lot from those men. It was a different world from what I had grown up in. And so it was a real eye-opener for me. But I went to college, got my college degree at Campbell. And when I came out, the superintendent there where I had been working at Reynolds Park convinced me to go back and get a concentration in turfgrass science. I looked at NC State, and quite frankly, I was less impressed than I was with Catawba Valley Technical Institute. I went up there and I met with Harry DeBose, professor up there, and Harry was just one of those individuals that was capable of really communicating effectively. Brilliant guy. And so I chose to go there. And they had a real focus on turfgrass. And I was there and did well, I guess. Harry I didn't know that Harry was as close to my age as he was. But he's 5 or 6 years older is all. Harry and Gail became good friends. They're still good friends. And he helped me get the job at Charlotte Country Club. So as soon as I graduated, I stepped right into the assistant superintendent position at Charlotte Country Club.
Okay.
So that was 1977. I stayed there for 5 years through 1982.
Why did you started working at a golf course at a really young age? Why did you want to continue to? You just really enjoyed working outside, or?
There's a lot that goes into that.
Yeah.
Okay. My dad was an accountant. His dad was an accountant. I did not want to be an accountant. And so I love the outdoors. I love nature. And so I enjoyed going to work and listening to the birds and the squirrels and the rabbits and run around and play. And I never forget, I was trying to get my nephew to do the same thing, get on that path and go to work during the summers, and he's my brother's kid. I said, Joel, you'll get to see the rabbits and the birds and the squirrels. He looked at me and he said, Jim, I don't give a about rabbits, squirrels, and birds. He went to become a pizza delivery boy.
Okay.
Which my dad would have never tolerated from me. They didn't have those things. 67.
Right.
Dad wanted me to work hard. He wanted me to see what it was like, to know that I didn't want to be digging mud and ditches at 50. And so I went on and became a golf course superintendent later. And like I said, I was at Charlotte Country Club 5 years. Then I took the head grounds position at Salisbury Country Club. And I was there 5 years. And when I went to Salisbury, it was a little different because they had Rubicon tennis courts, and I was over everything outside, including the pool. So I had to learn about pools, and I had maintaining tennis courts and various other things, and watering them, but also you had to learn the various committees. You have a tennis committee, you got a pool committee, and those people, their paradigm is pool, and so you have to navigate those personalities. If you follow what I'm saying. And the ladies, you have honeybees at the pool around drinks. They don't like that.
Right.
I mean, you just learning to navigate personalities, which I've never been the best at. But I went on from the Salisbury Country Club to Chuan Golf and Country Club, where I was golf director and general manager. And as general manager, that was a whole new look at the world. I was responsible for all the club budgets. And I had those assembled from the departments. And tell you that, I had to attend every board meeting. And it was an eye-opener as well. Edenton is it's up on the Albemarle Sound. It's a very unique community. You had a board of directors, which I answered to the president, ultimately to the board. Some of them were locals. The granddaddies had grown up there. Others, because Edenton's so pretty, and it's right on the Albemarle Sound. And it's 3 miles wide where the country club is.
Okay.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's kind of fresh water, mostly. Now, in the summer, it'd get a little brackish. So you have leaders in their field from around the country would retire there, and they did, and they'd get on the board of directors. So I had some really amazing individuals that I worked for and became friends with. A guy by the name of John Penn. He went through the Cornell Hotel School.
Okay.
Wow. And then when he got out, he was general manager. He was general manager at Oakmont Country Club, 3 years of which they had the U.S. Open there. He was there.
Yeah.
He was offered Caesar's Palace. He turned it down because he didn't want to raise his family there, and became the general manager of the New York Athletic Club. It was another big deal club. So he was on my board. He was the number 2 tennis player when he was at Cornell. So he loved tennis. I like tennis. John and I got friends. So he and Barbara and I became good. His wife, Barbara, we became good friends. And so that's kind of how it led to a foundation over many years, watching things take place. And so that's how I got into it, where I went.
All right. How did you start making your own times? What inspired that?
I wanted to make a little extra money. So I bought a Vertigrain, which was made by Redexim. They're out of Holland. And I bought a tractor, Mitsubishi 45 horsepower tractor. So we're going to do this. Now, this was I incorporated in August 1992.
Okay.
And I bought my Vertigrain and my tractor from the Redexim distributor of Charlotte, which at that time was E.J. Smith, or E.J. Smith and Son. When I was at Charlotte Country Club, I got to know those men at E.J. Smith because I was running over there all the time picking up parts for Charlotte Country Club across town. Those men in 77 grew into positions of authority in E.J. Smith and Son. And they became my friends, and I stayed friends with them. So when I bought my Vertigrain from them, started doing this thing, and at the time, weren't performing very well. Most of my customers were also my friends because I had been an assistant when they were assistants.
Yep.
So I grew up with those men as well. And so now I'm going on to a friend's golf course, and he's going to do soil exchange, and the tires won't pull a cord but like 2 greens. And then they become clogged up. then you're not doing soil exchange. Well, it's not only an embarrassment to me, I knew what my friends wanted. So I decided that I need to do something about this. So I went to a local machine shop in Statesville and I asked the guy if he could make, I showed him one of the times that you make this. He goes, uh-huh. I said, good. And so he started making them. I went back to him probably wasn't 3 times and had him dimensionally change those parts. And next thing you know, I got tines that work. I mean, work to the full life of the time. And I recognized that was a pretty good thing. And I knew there were other contractors out there that had been in business for much longer than I had. Redexim introduced the VertiDrain in 1985 to the U.S.
Okay.
It had been innovated in Europe specifically to do soccer fields. But now they introduced it in 1985, and they actually had a field day in 1985. Now, I'm at Salisbury Country Club in 1985. They had a field day at Charlotte Country Club on number 5 green. They had all the superintendents come around and whatnot. And my boss, my former boss, Johnny Burns, called me and said, Jim, remember how we used to sit in the office on winter days, just dream of going 6 inches deep on these drains? I said, yeah, I do. He said, this machine will go 10, 11 inches deep. You need to see this. So I went down for the field day. Ruud Franciscan, president or general manager of Redexim, was there, and their senior engineer, Marinus Renicki. And I met them both. Clueless that I'd ever have any other contact. I did stay later. Everybody else kind of left, but I was the only former assistant. So I stayed and chit-chatted. Then I went on about my business. So now we are in 1993, and I've got a time that's working pretty well. And I start calling other contractors that had gotten into the contracting business years before that I knew. And you can kind of domino it, and find out who another. And so I sent them some time and said, here, try these. They got back with me. I figured that everybody's having to use the same time.
Right, yeah. Because those back then, it was just source. One distributor, right?
And so they got back with me and said, man, these things work great. How much you want for them? I go, I don't know. So I made $3 or $4 a time. But I started going around and finding out about others. I even found out about a guy named Bob Doty in Ohio and started, he's a contractor up there, and started selling ties to him. And this is where it really turned spiritual for me. Please allow me to do that.
Oh, of course.
One morning, late March, I woke up on a Monday morning. I just woke up and knew that I needed to call Redexim. Now, they had cell phones in those days, but they didn't call Europe. And so I didn't know how to call Europe. So I called back down to my buddy at E.J. Smith Group that I bought my VertiDrain from and said, Troy, I'm making ties. He said, yeah, Jim, I know you are. We aren't selling as many now. I said, sorry about that. And he said, I said, you think Redexim would be interested in my ties? I don't know. And I said, how do you call Holland? He said, you don't have to. The North American importer is in Wilkes-Barre, PA. It's an 800 number. Here it is. Charlie Otto. Okay. On the phone, called Charlie there, Wilkes-Barre, PA. Got Charlie Otto on the phone. Of course, I introduced myself and I explained why I was calling. I talked to Charlie for, 7 or 8 minutes. Charlie stops me and he says, Jim, what made you call me this morning? I was not expecting that question. I said, Charlie, honestly, I just got up this morning and knew I needed to call Redexim. And it dead silence. Seemed like forever. Probably only 10 seconds, but it seemed like it was forever. And he comes back and he says, no one knows this yet, but Redexim just lost their supplier for time. And I said back to him, I said, Charlie, I know who does know it. And he said, yes, he does. The next morning at 7 a.m., I'm woken up by Ruud Franciscan, whom I had met in 1985 at Charlotte Country Club, calling from Holland to talk to me about time.
How cool is that?
I didn't expect it. That's the Heavenly Father at work, and nobody understands the real power there. Thing. So we talked, and he said, do you have a fax? I said, yes. So he said, Marinus Renicki is going to fax you over a list of ties that we need for testing.
Who's going to fax over?
Marinus, who was their head engineer.
Okay.
Redexim head engineer, and whom I also had met in 1985. And I'm sort of putting the pieces of the puzzle together as this is unfolding quickly. And they said to use our FedEx number and just FedEx the stuff to us, which I did. I went to the machine shop and said, "Here, make these." He said, "Okay," and made them, my spec, and then I shipped them over there to them. Probably a week, the most. Rude called me back. Said, "Jim, the times were great. How much you want?" "Oh, okay. I'll have to work you a matrix on that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get it worked up and I'll get it to you." Not having a clue what I was going to do here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I called back down to my buddy, DJ Smith Group. I say, "Troy, can you get into the computer and see what you're buying these tines for from Redexim?"
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Sure." Because he was wholesaling, right? So that's what he did. We went down it part number by part number. And I just backed it down, I think 35%. Took what they were paying and I backed it down 35%. I Redexim probably want to make that. That's the price I'm going to quote it. I went down. It took us a good hour and a half to go down through all those parts, pull it up.
Mm-hmm.
Instrumental though. So I took those prices, knowing there's no way the machine shop was going to make them for that. And I sent it over to Redexim, and within a day's time, they accepted my pricing. Okay.
Yeah.
So now, then we put a contract together, an agreement together. First a letter of intent, and then an agreement. It basically guaranteed me $500,000, 5 years.
Wow. Cool.
That was cool. Except that's just a piece of paper. Okay. I had no clue how to make anything. I grew grass.
Yeah.
I didn't have a building. I didn't have any equipment. I had nothing but a piece of paper. So I said, "I'll go to the bank. I'll show them this piece of paper." So I did. I went to the bank, explained what I wanted to do, and they asked me difficult questions like, "What have you been doing for the last number of years?" So I've been growing grass.
Mm-hmm.
"What do you know about manufacturing?" "I don't know anything." "Mr. Merritt, it's wonderful. You got a nice contract, but he's in Europe. What if he doesn't pay you?" "Oh, they're nice people that pay us. Right down the road to the bank. Just go on down the road to another bank." So I went to many banks. Finally found a bank that would take a chance on me. Now I had some cash, and I'm still looking now for someone to make these things at a price that would work. And I'd heard of a machine shop in Lexington. I was living in Winston-Salem, so I'm driving down Highway 150. And it's a 55-mile-an-hour zone, probably doing 65. Come by, a sign said Dalton's Metal Work. And I catch it out of the corner of my eye, and I did a back turn right into the driveway. I come in here, that original building, 60 by 80, on an acre and a half. And I walk in the building and pretty much empty. There's one guy standing in the back by one piece of machinery. I walk back there to him, said, introduced myself. He introduced me. He said, "I'm Jack Dalton." I said, "Hey, what's going on here?" "I'm selling out." "Oh, okay. What are you going to do with the building?" "We'll sell it, I guess." I said, "Have you ever heard of a purchase money mortgage?" He said, "No." I said, "What's under financing? Would you be interested in something like that?" "Yeah, maybe." I put a deal together with him in a matter of days. Went through the attorneys, and now I have a building. So at that point, I put an ad in the paper for a machinist. A guy by the name of Jim Kent, who had, from up north, had been a machinist on a nuclear sub for like 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And he had decided he didn't like the north. He didn't want to move down here. So he was here looking for a job. And so he came in and he said, "Jim, let's go shopping." Went and bought some equipment, hired some operators. He made my fixturing, and I started making time.
Just like that.
Just like that.
And were you still a golf course superintendent?
No, I quit that in the winter of '93 when I realized I had good time.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I needed to devote myself to JRM. And many people have said that was a bold move.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it wasn't. I don't know how to describe it. It was, this is what I need to do.
Yeah.
I can't describe it. But yeah, that's how I got into making time. and opened up JRM. As a kid, 17, 16, 18, I'm watching, we were airifying at Reynolds Park. There were 2 golf courses that were owned by the city, Reynolds Park and Winston Lake. And they'd shuffle me back and forth. So I was watching. And over the years, I noticed that Toro didn't even have a greens airifier. They didn't have one then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They came out with one, and I don't remember when, late 70s, early 80s. They were improving the machine. There was no focus at all on trying to improve the quality of the tine. And I was at Salisbury Country Club in the fall of '86, and we were airifying our greens that fall renovation. And like most every golf course out there, you got 1 or 2 greens that are your problem greens, and you're just, they're tough. And so at that time, I was getting about 3 greens per set of tines. And it so happened that number 10 green was a low pocketed green, big trees around it, by a creek, horrible air circulation. It was just a problem green. And I wanted to get as much depth on that green airification as I could. And so I was changing the tines prematurely, because I wanted the tines, you get decent depth on your first green. Second green is start to wear. Third green is the butter and to go away. And I didn't want that. So I'm down there. My mechanic was working on the top dresser. My assistant was changing cups on the front 9, because the ladies didn't mind playing on bumpy greens. So they were waiting for us to exit airifying number 10 green, and they're up there watching. Right? The ladies are all up there watching. One of them had to be the wife of a chairman of a greens committee. And I knew what was going on. So I'm changing tines, and I'm down there doing it a little early, prematurely. And here comes my ball. I just even come down the cart path. I knew what was going to happen. Hoy Pope drives up to me and asks me what I'm doing. I said, well, I'm about halfway done. I said, I'm changing time. And he said some unpleasant things to me, and then just drove off. I thought, I'm going to finish changing time. So I did. Point being is, the next February, the international, wasn't really called an international conference and show that year, I don't think, but it was in Phoenix, Arizona when I went to it. So I went to the Toro booth. I said, walked in there and said, do you have an engineer here? I said, sure. Bob, come over here. So Bob comes over, and I said, Bob, make me a tine that'll do all 18 holes, where I don't have to stop my airifier, where I can keep on going and get it done. He said, can't be done. Turned around and walked off, left me standing there in the middle of the Toro booth. I was standing there looking around. So I thought, okay, it can't be done. I didn't know. So I left. So how the millennium tine changed things. When I started making tine for Redexim, I really got going heavily, 94, 95. And that's when I started looking at trying to come out with a tine to all 18, 19 greens or 20 if you got 2 practice greens, without having to change the darn thing. And it took me several attempts and whatnot, but we figured it out and introduced the delinium tine in 1998.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
And there was surface tension, because tines have been costing $1, maybe $1.25. I'm saying, pay me 10. You gotta be crazy. And I'm saying, yeah, but look at all these tines. You add up all the costs of these tines, with these few little tines, it's less expensive. But the real benefit is, you start, usually when you're airifying, you start at daylight, quit at dark. You get the golf course open sooner. Everything starts with airifying. If you get it done, then all your follow-up processes are not held up, and you can move right along. And if all you got to do is stop the machine, put gas in it, and rotate an operator for lunch or whatever, and keep it going, wow, what a beautiful thing that is. I noticed over the years that every time you stop an airifier to change tines, you kind of open up Pandora's box. You could strip a bolt, or you could have all kinds of stuff. And you're usually not doing it in the most pleasant places. You're doing it out on a cart path or somewhere.
Right.
And your operator, you don't trust them to do it, so they're down to hunting golf balls. You get done, you got to call him back up. I mean, it's just Pandora's box.
Yep.
I knew most superintendents were dealing with stuff exactly like that. So
And your
I did-
depth stays consistent.
depth
too.
stays
That's-
consistent, which affects your absorption, your uptake, it affects everything. But I had to give some tines to them. They didn't believe it. So I started giving tines away. Again, just like I'd done previously. Hey, try these.
Yeah.
And when they did, it took off. I mean, we started selling tines. We had to we had to have an inventory. We had to do a lot of different things.
Supercharge course maintenance with Task Tracker, the leading golf course maintenance software in the industry. Built for precision and efficiency, Task Tracker simplifies daily operations, optimizes water usage, and keeps your team on track. With real-time updates and streamlined workflows, it's the essential tool for modern superintendents. Learn more at www.clubessentials.com/task tracker. Let's get back to the episode. Yeah, how did you learn the metallurgy? Coming up with that.
Well, in 1994, I bought a machinist handbook about that thick. And so I read the thing. Most of what I couldn't begin to tell you what it said, but it didn't matter. I was buying steel tubing and solid rod at mill minimums already, and I knew that, but I was buying them and going through a metal manager, Metro Atlanta Steel out of Charlotte. And of course they had their profit margin in there. I recognized that. And so I started trying to call steel mills and buying directly from them. And I noticed when the tubing would come in, it said Plymouth Tube, Streeter, Illinois. I got their number, started calling up there and asking them, give me an open account. They wouldn't do it. But I went up the food chain to their CFO, and he happened to love golf. So I'd call him and pester him. We'd talk 5 minutes about business and then 30 minutes about golf. Eventually, I cannot remember the man's name now. He said, Jim, look, we got an excellent discount program, 2% in 10 days. You take the discount this first order, and then after that, you got open account 30 days. I said, yes, sir. And you better believe I did that. And it was like a domino effect. Plymouth Tube is well known. So once I got an open account with Plymouth Tube, I was able to springboard off of that and get open accounts with other steel mills.
Okay.
When you do that, you're in an arena there where you have access to metallurgists. Yeah, they're the best that's out there. And so I'm out there picking at that, trying to figure out everything I can. And so you have people come by and visit you. And that's how I learned a lot about steels and metallurgy from those men and women. But I learned a tremendous amount from them. I sucked it up as best I could. We were having to do heat treating as well, so you learn about that to some degree too. It's just a right angle learning curve. I mean, you never quit learning.
No, not ever.
Stays good.
And like the old saying goes, sometimes it's not what you know, it's who you know. Because who you know might know what you need to know.
You're exactly right. You are exactly right. Who do you listen to? One of the most important things you'll ever learn. Who do you listen to? And this is something that over a period of time, you kind of check it. You want to listen to those that make good decisions and are right.
Yeah.
You see? And you figure out who's right and who's not. Pay attention. You can't have your pride get in the way. You can't have your ego get in the way. You got to decide based on right.
Yeah. Easier said than done sometimes. Right?
For human beings, it is.
Yes. Explain how you started making bed knives. So you're making all these tines, and then you say, okay, let's make bed knives?
Sort of.
Yeah.
Again, having been exposed to the industry, I knew where the volumes would be. I knew what items were large movers. And I knew also where I felt like there was vast opportunity for improvement. I don't like to make another Me Too.
Yeah.
I like to make things better. That's what it's all about. As a superintendent, I evaluated the value of a part. not just the cost. It was what did that part do for me? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The cost I felt like it was a really good value. I could justify the cost. So, bed knives. My brother was a naval aviator during Vietnam. And he told me one time the wing spars of our high performance jet fighters are coining. What's coining? Okay, I know what a quarter is. Not coining. No, that's not coining. So I started researching coining, noodling around and calling, just asking questions so I could learn. And I realized that when you coin a piece of steel, you change it on a molecular level and you enhance certain parts of that material. It's a squishing of metal. And when it's engineered, dies engineered correctly, it will, the metal almost become fluid, and it moves the metal into the business end of whatever part it is you're making. True coining die does. So in this case, I wanted my greens mowers, I wanted them coined, and the relief behind the strike point is what I wanted to give coined, and I wanted that material to flow up into the strike point and make that strike point just as durable as possible. I wanted to hold an edge. I know they have to work in harsh environments and grit and top dress and all that stuff. So I started trying to find someone that could manufacture a coining die for me, make a bed knife. It's easier said than done. And we went through 3 or 4 different companies before I found somebody that could really knew how to make a coining die. They could hold it true, across that 22 inches basically. At that time, you got 3,000, 4,000, you got to hold it true.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you have your heat treating is also involved in that, because when coining builds stresses in the metal, it likes to move. Heat really makes metal move.
Yep.
So there are certain things that had to be done to try to overcome those hurdles. And we had a lot of years where we had failures and stuff. One of the things that I want my company to do always, as long as I draw a breath and part of this company will do it, listen to the customer. Listen to the people, listen to the mechanic, listen to the superintendent. They will tell you what they want and what their needs are, and react to that. Don't let it be me walking into this Toro booth that day.
Yeah.
Listen to it, learn and react to that. So we did. And men like you who helped us refine our bed knives to where we have an excellent product now. And so we expanded the line. And
as a business owner, it's refreshing to hear that philosophy, because I do think a lot of businesses, and especially the bigger they get, the less they're concerned about the end user. And again,
that's what it's all about.
That's where your whole business
That's what
is.
it's all about. I was an end user.
Right.
And I knew how difficult it was. I remember what I went through, and didn't have to be.
Right.
So,
tell me about Butch Trogdon.
Trogdon.
Trogdon?
Butch Trogdon. Yeah, now that's a story in itself. Butch was the senior engine mechanic for the Richard Petty race team for 25 years. And Richard Petty retired and turned the team over to his son, Kyle. And Butch didn't get along with Kyle very well. So he left. Now, when you're working in NASCAR, there's no room for mistakes. It's a white glove, dust-free environment. They're working there. So he takes his Paradigm and he goes to Star Mountain Forest Country Club in Greensboro. Nice club. And they had deer walking greensboro. And they had L95 or L93 on their green. Can't remember which it was. Anyway, it was a bedknives. And so Butch comes there, and his paradigm was, if it's a GM motor, he's not putting anything back on that motor but a GM part.
Okay. Yeah.
That's he was. So here we are, trying to get him try our bed knives. We knew they were good. He wouldn't have any part of it. Even in superintendent who loved our time, put some pressure on him to do it, but, not an overwhelming amount. So one day, on a Friday afternoon, I'd flown up to Chicago, helping train at this dealer up there we'd put on. And I'd flying back and I had a layover, and I was waiting Friday afternoon for my plane. My phone rings. He said, "Jim?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "This is Butch Strongden at Darmount." I said, "Hey, Butch, how you doing?" He said, "I'm doing pretty well. You got time?" I said, "Sure." And he said, "I finally tried your bed knives." And he said, "I expected them to be good. I'd heard. That's why I was willing to try them."
Mm-hmm.
He said, "But what I'm seeing blows me away and I can't explain it." He said, "What are you doing Monday morning? Can you come over here?" I said, "Okay." He said, "We top dressed. It's past money. We've been cutting grit all week. And I've had to face off the bed knives every day, get them cut again to go back out." He said, "I got 9 Walking Greensmores. 7 of them got the original deer bed knives on them. 2 of them I put your bed knives on. I have not had to touch your bed knife yet."
Hmm.
He said, "But that's not what blew me away." He said, "Come on over here and I'll show you." Okay, I'll be there. So I go over Monday morning, see Butch. And he had a magnifying glass, so you can get down in there and you can look. And he changed out the bed knives on all the deer stuff, except for one. And he kept one of my mowing units that he didn't change the bed knife on. He said, "Now look at the one that the deer, with the deer bed knives on it." I looked down over the magnifying glass. You can see the grit striation through not only the bed knife, but also through the real blade. He said, "Now look at yours." And I looked down through there and there were very much less grit striations. Same thing on the real blade. He said, "Jim, your bed knife is making my reels last longer. And that is huge to me. I can't explain it, but that's what's happening." So, okay, that's good. That is huge to me. That's a very good, you go use our bed knife. So, so I went away. He starts using our bed knife. He wrote a testimonial for us. That was in May of that year. And in November, every year, we have a show at Myrtle Beach, Carolinas, pretty good sized show. And it draws from Tennessee, Georgia, Virginia even. And so we had a booth and we had it set up, and Butch had written me a testimonial, basically telling this whole thing. My brother dying. So I'm sitting and working our booth, and Fred Hartenstein walks. Now he's the head mechanic at Augusta National. He walks up, and he was already using our tines, and he walks up and starts talking to me. So I have this testimonial in my hand, and I tell Fred about what's going on, and I hand him the testimonial. He's reading it. And I turn around and look over my shoulder, and there's Butch Strongden standing there. I said, "Butch, oh, hey, Butch, this is Fred. Fred, this is Butch." And I just backed out, and they started talking. And next thing I know, Augusta National's buying our bed knives.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So when you see the Masters this year, you'll know they mowed them with our bed knives.
Oh, yeah.
That's true. I mean, that's how it happened. I mean, only the Heavenly Father can do stuff like that.
Yeah. That's all.
I just backed up. They started talking to it. I don't know. They talked a pretty good while.
That's cool. Do you know if Butch, is he still working?
No.
Retired.
Retired.
How about developing the Infinity time?
Again, I don't like a me too. So I looked at, by that time we developed the Infinity time, I learned more and more about heat treating and metallurgies that connect to that. I mean, it's not just heat treating by itself. It's the steels and the foundations that you give to work. So we worked out a very good product there.
Because you can't just take mild steel and heat treat it and make it hard, right? You got to have metallurgy before you
got to have a certain amount of carbon. You got to have and the alloys play a part in all that too. And it's a learning curve.
Yeah. How long did that take to figure that process?
Not that long, because by that time I had some accumulated knowledge, and I was able to come out with that part from start to finish, probably a year at the most.
Okay. Why did you decide to paint them blue?
Make them stand out. Make them different.
Yeah, to make them different.
Make them different. Everybody see that's a JRM Infinity talent. And I will tell you, my staff gave me a really hard time about that blue. I mean, really hard time. And
you didn't want to do green. You didn't want to do red or orange.
I wanted it to be unique and different. And
yeah.
Truthfully, I was looking for a color and I was in Lowe's. I turned around and I went down an aisle and there, but all these paint cans right there.
Mm-hmm.
And that one cap caught my attention. I grabbed it. It's going to be our Infinity.
Yep. That's funny. Yeah,
that's going to be our Infinity time.
That's funny how things like that happen.
Well, again, why did I walk down that aisle? I wasn't even there to buy paint. I didn't go there to find the paint. I went there for something else.
Yeah. And then
the Heavenly Father. Yep. And there it was. Came back and I started painting that color, and it just carried on over to our reels. And now, anybody that sees a blue reel is going to know that's JRM.
Yeah. So where did the reels come from? You just said, I'm making bedknives. We might as well make reels.
Yeah. Pretty much, we decided we needed to start making reels, and we had a pretty significant learning curve there. It took us longer than I'd hoped. I think we're over revision 17 now.
Mm-hmm.
But we've got a great reel now, and we're very excited about that. It took us a couple of 2 or 3 years really to get it down.
Why is quality so important here at JRM?
Because that's what matters. It mattered to me anyway. I consider myself normal. She might not, but I consider myself normal. And so I figure everybody ought to think like me. And superintendents are immensely practical people. They live in a world where they can't control life and death. Grass will die. And sometimes you don't even know why.
Mm-hmm.
I was at Salisbury Country Club when Root Rock Pythium first hit Charlotte Country Club.
Oh, yeah.
And I had to go back. I went down there and looked at it, and it was so sad. And it had just evolved.
Mm-hmm.
So we can't control stuff like that. And so superintendents are, I think, very practical people and very humble many times. But just the nature of what they're in. So I mean, if I felt like if I provided them a part that was distinctively superior,
mm-hmm.
they'd buy it, and it would make their world more beautiful, make it easier. Make their life easier. Keep the mechanics off his hands and knees.
Yeah. I've been on my hands and knees many times, and I don't enjoy it.
When you can keep a guy off his hands and knees as much as possible, you made a friend.
Yep. No, you definitely have. Do you have any new products here and projects? Any that you want to talk about or discuss?
I can, I guess. I don't see any reason why I can't.
You are the owner, right? So you can talk about whatever you want to.
I can do that. All through the years, there have been groomers and brushes that have been on mowing unit to try to make the grass stand up, get a better cut, and get a better roll. And golf course superintendents, including myself, went to great lengths to get a better stimp reading. Come behind and roll the greens.
Yeah.
These rollers, we realized that a big part of the brush, you couldn't utilize those brushes. They were turning too fast. Way too fast. So if you put them down in the turf at all, they'll burn. Mm-hmm. And in fact, put them down much, and if you have an undulated green, it'll almost suck the mowing unit down to where it'll scalp. I mean, it really, so those brushes were, and groomers too, where they really were, you couldn't get them down in the canopy. You just couldn't, you couldn't get them that. They really didn't do what intended. We have designed a brush, patent pending now, that goes in the same place as all the brushes did. Behind the front roller, front of the reel, but it's got its own independent motor, and it turns at 250 RPMs instead of 3,000.
Yeah.
So you can literally put that brush down into the canopy of the grass, and pull that canopy up, excavate the sloughed off leaves, and open that canopy up to the air and the sunshine and gas exchange and all the beautiful things that makes grass happy.
Yeah.
So you're actually doing something that's going to be beneficial to the turf, and at the same time, you get a much better stem reading. So we'd call it a stem brush.
Oh, okay. Awesome. That's exciting.
And you can mow every day with this brush down the canopy. And what we have seen, if you use it every day, the grass will just get healthier and healthier.
How far below the rollers are you setting that? Or like, because it goes kind of into the canopy,
It goes into the canopy. It'll literally open up the canopy.
Yeah. That's
just
something else. And I would think too, opening the canopy up when you did top dress, it'd be easier to work the top dress in and all those things too.
I believe in time it will totally change golf course maintenance, because I think it'll affect all your cultivation practices. It'll affect your fertilization practice. If your grass is healthier, it'll certainly affect your pesticide practices.
Yep.
But in time, we're going to see how this does. But anytime you make the grass healthier and more robust, you've done something that, and I can't think of anything else that was ever done to get a better stem reading that wasn't detrimental, really, somewhat to the,
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons I'm very excited about this.
Yeah, most all the practices we do to make a green fast is not good for the grass.
Cutting it lower, rolling it, whatever. Here you can raise the cut height. Very likely you can raise the cut height.
Oh, that makes sense.
We'll see.
Where do you see JRM going in the future?
That's a tough question. I mean, we're continuing to try to do the best that we can to help this beautiful, incredible industry, which we service, come out with new parts and try to innovate things along the way, listening always to the end user, to the mechanic. A maintenance technician can call in here and ask to speak to an engineer, and he will get one on the phone. And that is, again, one of the things that I think is very important.
And that engineer ain't going to tell him it can't be done. See you later. Right?
He better not.
Yeah.
Don't be working here long.
Right.
He needs to listen to what the request is.
Yeah.
And then, because that guy had no clue, first of all, I don't think the guy was an engineer.
Yeah, who knows?
They called some other sales rep over there, some other sales guy over there.
Yeah.
Looking back at it, I don't think Billy Bob knew anything about steel.
Yeah, probably not.
But I mean, at the time, I'm just a kid. I'm going, oh, okay. And I walked away thinking it couldn't be done. Had no way. No way that it could be done.
And now here we are.
Yeah.
So that's got to make you feel really good. How rewarding has it been watching JRM's
been humbling
progress?
Very humbling to have my peers see value in my parts and what I do. Is probably one of the most humbling things I can ever experience. It's a beautiful thing. I have people say to me, look at what a great job you've done. And I look at them and I say, look at what a great job God has done. I think that's exactly how I see it.
Yeah.
The Lord works through people.
Yep.
And I'm very humbled that we've been able to do something that I think has genuinely affected this industry. Like I say, we came out with our delirium time in 1998. Most people may not realize, but it was 2005 when Toro came out with their Titan time.
Yeah.
You see? And that was a definite response to our delirium time. And I didn't patent the delirium time. Should have, but I didn't know to in those days.
Yeah.
So it's okay.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Competition's good. So we made Toro do a thing. You know what I'm saying? And then Deere followed through too, I'm sure. That's humbling, very humbling to me.
Yeah, no, it's definitely been a positive impact on the industry. Because, I mean, if you hadn't come up with that, you know,
Well,
who knows? Would it stayed like that forever?
God
Change of
created
times?
competition. We know that. You get up in the morning, look out your window, you watch the robins compete with one another for a worm.
Mm-hmm.
God created competition for a reason. And competition, if it's honorable and fair, is great. When you got people running around sniping behind you, that's different. But people are people. So competition is a good thing, and it has shown to be a very good thing in this industry too.
Yeah, that's been really good. I can't thank you enough for sitting down here and talking with me.
More than happy.
This is enjoyable for sure. Hopefully, our fans and audience over here has enjoyed it as well. Um, any other things from the peanut gallery?
You get a. It's just like with Redexim. We got a contract with Redexim. Next thing I know, we got a contract with Vitamin. Next thing you know, a contract with Firefly.
Yep.
Firefly.
Yeah.
And it just snowballs. But it all has to do with quality, to do with quality of the product. So I will best today. I don't build in planned obsolescence ever. I have these people say, well, it'll last forever, Jim. What are you going to do? I mean, probably they're going to buy one and never buy another one. I said, that's fine. If everybody buys one, I'll be happy. It gives me a hard time sometimes.
But a lot of companies do, right? The planned
They do it
obsolescence.
intentionally.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure they do. And I never appreciated that. It's stupid to me.
Yep, I agree. I agree with it. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to the Real Turf Techs podcast. I hope you learned something today. Don't forget to subscribe. If you have any topics you would like to discuss or you'd like to be a guest, find us on Twitter at Real Turf Techs. See you bye. Welcome to the Real Turf Techs podcast, episode 140. Today we're talking to Jim Merritt, founder and CEO of JRM Incorporated. Jim started working on a golf course as a teenager, and that led to being a successful. Jim started working on a golf course as a teenager, then that led to Jim started working at a golf course as a teenager, and that led to a successful career as a superintendent at several prominent. Jim started working at a golf course as a teenager, and that led to a successful career as a superintendent at several prominent. Jim started working on a Jim started working on a golf course as a teenager, and that led to Jim started working at a golf course as a teenager, and that led to a successful career as a superintendent at several prominent golf courses in North Carolina. He became frustrated with the quality of aerification tines in the early 1990s, and Jim started making his own tine that could last and pull cores longer. Jim made tines for his deep tine aerification business before landing a contract with Redexim. Frustrated with the quality of aerification tines in the early 1990s, Jim started making his own tines that could last and pull cores longer. Jim made tines for his deep tine aerification business before landing a contract with Redexim. Holland. This contract helped Jim officially incorporate JRM, and the rest is history. Let's hear a little bit of that history today. Let's talk to Jim. And just a friendly reminder, Jim's two favorite heroes are Jesus and Tarzan.